Washington State. A kindergarten teacher notices that during her class's free choice playtime, that the boys tended to play with toys like Legos, while the girls tended to play with toys like dolls. While the majority of people would attribute the differences in toy selection to the differences between boys and girls, for this teacher, it was a sign of sexist discrimination against her female students. So in an effort to create toy selection equality, the teacher first decided that it was appropriate to buy pink and purple Legos in order to entice the girls to play with them. However, when that didn't work, she decided that actively discriminating against her boy students was the better option. So she began barring the boys from playing with the toys that they wanted. Quote, "I would always tell the boys, you're going to have a turn. And I'm like, yeah, when hell freezes over in my head." Yeah, that's the kind of person I want teaching a kindergarten class. Somebody who's perfectly fine with bullying 5-year-olds. Now, when this still didn't work, the teacher decided that she was going to requisition new Legos from the school and then form a girls-only Lego club in her classroom. So Washington taxpayers are actively subsidizing discriminatory policies in their kindergarten classrooms. What's up, guys? Sean here for the David Horowitz Freedom Center and StopK12Indoctrination.org. And today we're going to talk about radical gender politics infiltrating our public schools. Now, there's a belief that is spawned by left-wing academia that the observable differences between boys and girls, men and women, males and females, are not actually real. They're socially constructed. Now, despite the fact that this is obviously wrong, and virtually all scientific studies prove this theory is wrong, according to these left-wing social engineers, if they're allowed to take control of your children before society and the parents indoctrinate them with internalized sexism, they will be proven right. Unfortunately, this absurd theory is actually being tested throughout our nation's schools as we speak. In its most benign form, it manifests as the removal of traditional events like father-daughter dances, which are being banned in elementary schools in Staten Island. More serious examples of this are biology classes that no longer teach that biological males and biological females exist, as well as teachers using actively discriminatory policies against their students, like the story I opened this video with. And by far, the most serious impact of these policies is that teachers are now promoting transgenderism to very young children as early as kindergarten. For example, a Sacramento kindergarten teacher decided it was appropriate to introduce books like I Am Jazz and Red, a Crayon Story into her class. These books are left-wing propaganda meant to introduce young children to the idea of transgenderism. A few days later, the teacher held a transition ceremony where she introduced one of the students as a boy, took him to the bathroom, and then brought the kid back out dressed as a female, and then instructed the rest of the class that this student had his gender changed and should now be referred to as a female with the female name. Of course, this disturbed many of the kids in the classroom, and when they went home, some of the kids told their parents that they were afraid to go back to school because they didn't want to be taken to the bathroom and come out a boy or come out a girl. Because it turns out that 5 years old is really young to be learning about transgenderism. Now, the parents weren't notified prior to this ceremony happening, so when they complained to the school, they demanded to know why that was the case. And it turns out that California is amongst an ever-increasing amount of states that has separated lessons about gender identity from the overall sex education curriculum. Now, the reason for this separation is that California is among the majority of states within this country that are required by law to give parents the ability to opt out of sex education lessons. So essentially what California and an ever-increasing number of states are doing is saying that we're going to teach your students about transgenderism and you have no say in the matter. But it goes even further than that. Some states forbid public school officials from even informing their parents that their own child is experiencing gender dysphoria. There's also a push to prevent pediatricians from counseling against transition, as well as laws being pushed that will take away custody of your child if you refuse to put them through a transition. So in the not too distant future, it wouldn't be crazy to see a story where a school is pushing transgenderism on students without the knowledge of the parents. And then the student, because of the propaganda in the public schools, experiences gender confusion. So the kid is recommended to a doctor, and the doctor pushes transition as the solution to this problem. And then when the parent says, no, 5 years old is way too soon for my kid to change genders, they lose custody of that child. And then the state puts the child on puberty blockers or hormones, which could have devastating long-term consequences on that child. Look, this is pure insanity, plain and simple. The idea that radical leftist theory on gender should supersede parental rights is nonsense, which is why you even have people who have gone through the transgender process speaking out against children going into transition.
I'm definitely against children transitioning. I think that it's a horrible decision to let a child make a life-changing decision and decide to be sterile, because that is a consequence of transitioning so young. You can't have kids. And just the drugs that they go on, there's a lot of problematic things that go along with that.
Look, the public school system is the first domino on this key issue. If we allow it to tip over, and we allow our public school system to promote experimental medical treatment that can sterilize our children, then we will lose this battle. If you want to fight back, please visit stopk12indoctrination.org and read over the Code of Ethics for K-12 educators. This is openly a radical leftist political movement, and it's being taught to our students as early as kindergarten as fact. On the website, you can read over the Code of Ethics, sign up for email alerts, and report your own instances of K-12 indoctrination. This has been Sean Fitzgerald for the David Horowitz Freedom Center and StopK12indoctrination.org. Till next time.